It's been a big year. Hi, I'm Sarah. I am one half of Two Pearls in a Pod, which is a podcast I normally make with my friend Paige. She is overseas, she is travelling, and she has, as a result, left me here to film what is absolutely, the best video of the year by myself, which is a bit daunting, but here we are to talk about everything I made in 2024. I'm making this a little bit early just because I'm going to be working a lot in that gap between Christmas and New Year. I'm working most of those days actually. So I thought I'd take an opportunity to sit out in my garden and go through and talk about everything. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I am here on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I'm incredibly grateful to be here. I really love filming outside in my garden. It's a really lovely place for me, and I know that it perhaps doesn't always lead to the best quality videos, and there can sometimes be some interference, and I really appreciate people sort of putting up with that so that I can sit in a beautiful place and talk about my knitting in a place that I really love. So yeah, let's do it. I think talking about my knits and reviewing like my year-end knits without Paige is kind of going to be a bit strange, given that last year when we did this equivalent video, it was really nice talking about comparing notes, things that we both made, and having someone to bounce off. I think I'm especially missing her now. It's always nice to chat with her and make videos with her, but this is one that I'm definitely feeling her absence the most. But we'll keep going. So I don't even know, I've got a heap of things that I've knitted this year, and it would be nice to kind of talk about some of them, the things that I've worn a lot, the things that I've learnt, some things to take into next year. Overall, I think it was a very productive year. And overall, I think probably my stash decreased, probably not by much, but I think net negative, which is a good thing. There's lots of gift knits that I made this year that I've given away, but it's been really nice to sort of show a lot of them and give them away and see them kind of get to their recipients and be enjoyed. The other thing that's really jumping out at me when I look back at my knits from this year was that it was very garment heavy and significantly and far less so a year of accessories. Like there are very few, which I don't is not a bad thing, but it's an interesting observation where my focus was and what my priorities were in making things. And I think probably part of that is the fact that where I live, it's not super cold, so things like woolly gloves and beanies and scarves, whilst they're fun and whilst they're nice, are not really necessary, and you can definitely get by without them most of the year. So I think that's reflected in the fact that they're not a priority for me at the moment, by and large. But in addition to some of the gift knits, some of the few accessories that I did make I made a total of 2 pairs of socks, and when I think back to the fact that last year at one point I floated perhaps doing a pair of socks a month, which I didn't even meet, but I did a far better effort than just 2 pairs. I don't mind. I think that there's not a huge amount of opportunity for me to wear knitted socks by and large, so I think this is an appropriate number of socks for me to have acquired this year. The first pair is just a vanilla sock that I used the Summerlee Knits I'm So Basic socks. That's my go-to. I really love it, and it was with a hand dye. Oh my god, Sarah. As a sock set from a Australian dye called Hodgepodge Skeins. It was just a really nice, easy, get it done project, and I think probably my vanilla socks are the ones I wear most, just because they're so unfussy and they're just really easy to wear and not worry too much about. So That pair's really earned its keep, I'd say. And then the other pair I did was a test knit quite early on in the year for Mariev in her skein. And these are the Fiorini Socks. It was a really lovely little test knit. It's a really lovely little pattern, and this was my first colourwork sock. It's and remains my only colourwork sock. So in that sense, yeah, it's been like, I just think they're so beautiful, and I really like wearing these with my Birkenstock clogs, just for a real look. This was using a little mini skein that I just got from my local yarn store, and the main colour was the regular premium sock yarn, which contains a portion of cashmere. And my lasting impression is that the cashmere probably doesn't add much. It's a fine sock yarn, but you're probably paying a higher price for not necessarily a softer, nicer sock yarn. It's felted. They felted a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see, but on the whole, not too bad. So it holds, the yarn holds up. It's just, I don't think probably worth the luxury price, but it's made for a really beautiful colourwork sock. And then I made one beanie, which I was really proud of, and I'm really pleased with the kind of execution, and that is my muscle burra. This is the first muscle burra that I've made, and it certainly shan't be the last. I've got 3 or 4 on the needles at the moment, or I've just finished. This was just kind of an idea that popped into my head, and to make what is actually obviously my reversible muscle burra. And it's not perfect. I think it's probably a little on the small side, and the sections could be better in terms of their evenness to make sure that it's not peeking out too much. But overall, I'm really happy with kind of as a concept, and it's just a good basic beanie that has a little secret fun extra component, which I really love. So that was it. They were all my small accessories. Yeah, I haven't got much more to say than that, other than I was obviously a lot more motivated to make garments, which I am glad, because I got a lot of wear out of a lot of them, and it's something that, because I can wear knits every day at work and in my life, it's a nice opportunity to use them a lot, whereas accessories probably get less wear anyway. So yeah, but let's talk about why we're all here. Let's talk about some garments, because holy moly, it's been a big year. I'm kind of looking at this pile that I've tried to accumulate and coordinate, and I feel like we're gonna go color based, just because that's how they've tipped into the basket that's down here, and we'll see how much I can remember. The first thing I've pulled up is probably the only thing I'm not going to try on, just because it's not something that you can really wear anything underneath, and I'm not sure how long my battery's going to last out. But my first garment is this one. You can tell this one's been folded and hasn't got any wear this summer yet, but this is my Tster tee by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea, which I made quite early on in the year, and this was my sort of summer 2023/24 project that I worked on, really over, I think, probably December, January. So this is probably the oldest thing I've got here. It didn't get a huge amount of love. It is, I've spoken about the fact that I'm realizing more and more that summer knits are not really a thing that I am particularly interested in continuing making, because I just don't wear them. It's either too hot, they're either too warm or not warm enough, and the window in which I can actually get some use out of this is pretty limited. That being said, this is, of all of the summer things that I do own, this is the one that probably is the most wearable and the most utility. It's just the most like a normal garment, that doesn't take much effort. The one modification that I made was I put a little Henley in, which I think is just, I'm really pleased with. It's maybe a little shallow, and I think in hindsight I might have gone a bit deeper, but overall it's I just think it's really cute with the wooden buttons. I'll pop a picture of me wearing it in, but yeah, this is a garment I made using Knitting for Olive silk, pure silk, and I did the 4-ply Tster pattern for this. I had to do a little bit of pattern modification to get the Henley in, but it wasn't too bad, and as a result I've got like a really lovely 4-ply garment. It took a lot of effort, and I'm not sure I would like rush to make another one, but I'm happy that I own one. Kind of, it's like one of those, you know, there's like a few patterns that I think are probably like you need to knit one at some point in your knitting career, like a ranunculus and a muscle burr, and I think a Tster falls into this like top 10, like everyone needs to have knit one type things. Anyway, this is the only summery sort of garment that I made this year. I feel like I should say at this point, something that I spoke about, or Paige and I spoke about earlier in the year, was I made up this sort of calculation to try and quantify how much effort goes into making a garment, because like I think trying to get some sort of metric to demonstrate what was a really involved make versus what was a really quick make, and what cost you more time and energy, and trying to kind of arbitrarily put a number on that was something that I really wanted to try and achieve earlier in the year. So I developed a little calculation and put that onto a web page, which a viewer's boyfriend has really kindly hosted the web page. So I called it the Standard Adult Beanie Unit, and the premise being that each garment that you knit, you kind of compare to how many adult beanies would be the same, if that makes sense. So I think for this one, you know, based on the so based on the, come on Sarah, the needle size, the meterage of the ball, how many balls you need, and then like a self-determined complexity factor, you can kind of quantify how much effort is this relative to a standard adult beanie, which you might knit out of 8-ply DK weight yarn. So like for instance, this one I think is about 3.6, but I don't know, these numbers are kind of a bit arbitrary and a bit, I find them interesting, and I find it satisfying that the numbers kind of work, and when I see them, I'm like, yeah, that checks out, that this was the equivalent of knitting 3.5 beanies in terms of the work that went into it. But I might include that information just with all these garments for the year, but I certainly haven't calculated at this point, so we'll see how we go. But that was my first one. The next creamiest one, because we're definitely going by kind of color story here a bit, is this one. Oh, I'm gonna put this on. It finally just got a little bit cooler, and I'm actually happy to put this on. But the next cab off the rank is this one. This is my Ulysses Genser. Oh my gosh, it just looks so pretty. Sorry, this is my Ulysses Genser by Sandnesgarn. This is a pattern that is from the Dartm or Soft for Women book, which I was influenced initially to purchase the book because Inga from Knitting Traditions used to knit a lot from it. This is the first thing and the only thing so far I've knitted from this book, but this is a top-down lace yoke using a single strand of mohair, and I used the colour elderflower in the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. It's really beautiful. Like it's something I'm really proud of, and it's unlike anything else I own, and the detail is really nice. This is perhaps not the best top to show the lace work, but it's lovely. The one thing I have on reflection, I haven't actually worn this very much, and I think maybe that's because I think it's too delicate and too special. And so I'm kind of not sure that I haven't kind of grabbed for it, because it's not a just, oh, I'll just chuck it on. Like, it feels like putting it on is this special thing, and I need to find just the right circumstances that I could wear it, because, you know, it's obviously very loose and airy, but it's woolly, and so it's probably like an indoor garment. Like, I haven't got a lot of wear out of it, in short, which is a shame, because it is incredibly beautiful. And I think part of it is mainly because maybe it's a little bit small. Or not that it's small, but I think if it was more oversized, it would be more slouchy and it would be more relaxed, and it would have a more relaxed feel that I could just throw it on. But at the moment it feels a little bit like prim, and so it's lacking that relaxed quality that I really like in my knits and how I like to dress. So in hindsight, I think maybe I would have, I think if I could go back in time, I would have knit a size up, because once you're through the yoke, it's just stockinette. It's a bit of a pain, because the mohair is like, you've got to focus on, you can't sort of just, it's not a TV knit really. But I would have happily put the extra effort in had I have known. That's okay. And maybe I'll try and I think maybe I could try and give it another block and see how it goes. It's fine. Like, it fits well. It just doesn't fit probably in the style that I was hoping it might. But even still, I think it's so beautiful. I'm really proud of it, and I really love this color. I'm not sure it suits me, but I just love it anyway. But I really like just wearing this with just like denim shorts. But yeah, well, looking at it now, I'm like, oh, why haven't I worn this? It's so, anyway, if I keep like admiring myself, we're going to be here a while, so I'll keep going. But that's number 2. Ugh. I still haven't fixed this. I'm kind of not motivated to. That's my deep shame. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is this guy. This is the Myrtle Vest, which is a test knit that I did for Rebecca of the Craybear. Again, over that like Christmas, December, January period. This was a pattern that came out in the Journal of Scottish Yarn or Wool or something. And this is the first test knit I've done. It's the only test knit I've done, I think, for, yes, it is the only test knit I've done for Rebecca. And this is, yeah, this was a really fun one. It was really nice to be part of that test group. I feel like this is probably not high enough, hang on, but this is sort of the waistcoat that we're working with. Normally I would wear this with a t-shirt, but we're working with what we've got. This is a really interesting construction garment where you knit these 2 colour work panels sort of individually, and then you knit the rest of the body and then seam it. Was it seamed? Yeah, and then you sew them together. So that was really interesting. I've never knit anything like this before. So it was a really fun experience. I used 2 skeins of a DK weight hand dyed yarn, which I spoke about in the past. I was a bit unhappy about, but it's fine. The main reason I'm not overly fussed about the fact that the yarn wasn't great and the dyeing was really irregular and had lots of issues, I don't actually wear this very much as a garment, and as a result I'm kind of a bit like ambivalent about this project, in that it's cool and it's interesting and it was fun to do, but like push comes to shove, it's probably, I think I had some issues with like fit around the arm, and the band I probably made a little bit too tight. Like, it doesn't, I feel like I always need to stretch it out. actually, again, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it actually kind of looks cool, but on the whole, it doesn't, it's not, I just don't, it's just a bit of an awkward one to wear. And like, whilst I think it's very impressive, it's not something I would, yeah, I just don't wear it. It's not, again, it's not an organic, like, I'll just throw it on and just see what happens. But we'll see. We move on. The next garment that I will talk about is one that got a lot of wear, and there's definitely a degree of recency bias in that, but I maintain that this one is a stayer, and this is just an absolute win. This is my, what's it called? Dartm. This is my Dartm sweater by Kauri or Ozetta. I really should learn the difference between those two, but I'll pop it up here. This was my first like autumn project of the year, and I made it after I had just finished all these like very fine, labor intensive, you know, like the fingering weight Tster and then the color work Myrtle Vest. And so I really was craving, oh, the sun's just gone down a bit. I was really craving a bit of something like instant gratification, and this was some yarn that I had bought maybe at the end of the previous year, sitting waiting to be used, and so found just the right pattern to make a drop shoulder. It's got that really nice thing where it's got an I cord as like the shoulder seam, which provides fantastic structure, but also just looks cool. This yarn is called Poppy. It's by Sandnesgarn. It is chunky and speckled in the best way. And again, it's reasonably cropped. I did a split hem, and again, I just tuck it into my jeans. It's been really good. My favourite thing about this jumper is how light and lofty it is. And I think one of the themes of this year and the garments that I've enjoyed making is light, lofty, airy garments. So yeah, that's really one of my kind of favourite things about this. Sorry, I'm just like seeing if there's clouds and what the lighting situation is going to be like, but I think we might be in luck. The one thing I will say about this jumper, it's really easy to throw on. I really like wearing it. I think the colour probably doesn't suit me all that much. I think it's a little bit, I think it washes me out, and I don't think it suits me all that much. It's not enough to make me not wear it. It's not enough that I care, but I'm mindful that it's just a little bit too like beigey grey and probably doesn't suit me. This is, I think the colour was called like Autumn Leaves or something. Most of the speckled puppy colours are on a bright white base, but this was on a more kind of oatmeal-y coloured base, which yeah, probably doesn't suit me. And so generally, if I'm going out or if I'm wearing this outside the house, or I kind of want to look a little bit nicer, I often wear this with a white collared shirt, and it just breaks it up between the garment and my face, just so that there's a little sort of contrast, and so it's not this, doesn't wash me out so much. And so certainly when I wear this to work, I'll wear a sort of a shirt collar underneath. But when I'm at home and I don't really care, I just throw this on because it's like comfy and cozy and lofty and squashy, and I love it. But this is probably the last vestige of me kind of working out what suits me colour-wise and making good choices based on, you know, my season and my, like, what I think suits me and suits the colours that I want to wear. So if I was shopping for this yarn now, I might appropriately hesitate with this, but it's a trade-off because like it's beautiful and speckled, and it was a great yarn pattern combo. Like as a oversized, lofty garment, this is a great pattern and this was a great yarn for this pattern. So I don't resent it. Like it doesn't matter, but it's something to think about for future years going forward. I think this is definitely, I think the standard adult beanie unit on this was like 3.3 or something. Like it knit up so quickly, and it was just like the perfect palette cleanser after last summer of doing really fine garments. But let's continue. All right. This is the one I'm most happy to talk about. I think this is my favourite. I don't want to preempt because I'll just say it now. This is my favourite garment of the year. This is the thing I'm most proud of. This is the thing that brings me most joy. This is everything I could ever want in this life. This is my book Club Cardigan by Sari Nordland. Oh, it's just, I just love it. Sorry, this video is just now apparently me just gushing over myself. But anyway, I'm just really proud and happy of the things that I've made, but most of all this. So this was probably like one of the most cult patterns of the year, and I fell in love with it as soon as it was teased. It's been such a big year for this pattern and for me with this pattern, because I ended up doing knit along, which was hosted alongside by Mathilde of Nestled in Knits and Sandra of Enso Knits, and starting that chat, starting that group, starting that knit along was really an unexpected pleasure in my year, and it was so fun to be a part of, and so fun to be part of a community knitting something together. And the thing that I took away from that is the reason I enjoy test knits is the community of people knitting something simultaneously, far more so than the prospect of, trying a new garment or doing something kind of before it comes out, or not exclusive, but I think there's things that I thought I liked about test knits, but really the only thing I like about test knits is the community that you get kind of as a default. So this was a garment that's probably emphasised the fact that I'm probably less inclined to do test knits going forward, unless, I wouldn't say never, but it's making me probably more look out for knit alongs that I want to do or be a part of, and just really share with the community the knits that I'm working on and working alongside other people. But yeah, anyway, I digress again. This is a kind of drop shoulder all over cabled cardigan that is knit. The pattern calls for a sport weight yarn and a held with the mohair. I instead was gifted some yarn by a New Zealand brand called Zealana, which are very, I think, probably unique, or one of few mills that use possum in their yarn. So they gifted me this as part of the knit along, and it has just made the most beautiful garment, and I gush about this all the time. But this yarn, which contains wool, silk and possum fur, has just produced the most beautiful natural colour, but because the possum hairs are really dark, they sort of sit as a halo on the surface and kind of give a level of depth and shadow to this yarn, which I don't think I realised at the time how perfect it would be. I was like, yeah, that'll be nice. But again, I really struck gold, I think, with this one in terms of wool and pattern aligning perfectly to make what's absolutely the most perfect garment. Possum can be a controversial fibre for some people, and I have spoken about the research that I did before kind of going into this yarn, and I will link the timestamp in the video where I kind of go into a lot of detail about that if you have if you wanted to listen more about kind of where the possum thing. But for me, again, Shock Horror Sarah's made a cropped garment that just sits that's my ASIS, that's my hip bone there, it's just perfect. I made quite a few modifications, like with the button band and the pockets and things. Nothing drastic, but this is by far and away my favorite thing. It's so easy to throw on. It's a great neutral, so it suits everything. It's really warm, like, because it's like a fluffy, woolly, you know, worsted weight yarn, but it just is perfect. It's just, you know, even now it's sort of cooling down, and I'm feeling quite comfortable in this, and I kind of don't want to take it off, but I love wearing it. I'm so happy, and this was the winner of the year. I mean, I was the winner of the year because I get to own this now, but it'll take a lot to trump this, I think, in 2025. But really, really pleased with it. Moving on, because goodness, I need to move on. What's next? This one is a much more recent one, but again is probably up there in terms of the things that I think I'm going to enjoy the most in the long term. I think I would have spoken about this like very, very recently, but this is my zipper sweater light man, because that's a pattern that I had by Petite Knit, and it's just perfect. It fulfills its brief perfectly. It's a top-down raglan with this like zipper collar, which was really straightforward once you read the pattern properly, but I knit it using one strand of Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour Dusty Dove Blue, and one strand of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colour Blue Jeans, to create a very definite marl. It's not super contrasting, but it's enough that it's a marl, and it's, again, the thing that I am enjoying most about this in the time since I've knit it is how loose and lofty this yarn combination is, and how it's made a really like comfortable garment that I can again just throw on. I really like it with my light wash denim. I really like it just with leggings because it's got that sporty feel. So recency bias means that this hasn't had its time to shine because I finished it too late in the year. But what I can say is that I think this one's a stayer. Like, I think this will be one that I can already, it's just like reliably grab it, chuck it on, feel great, because it's a really nice garment and I'm really, really wrapped with it. And I would like more zipper sweaters and zippered garments in 2025, but we shall see. But for now, really happy with this. It looks really professional. I think it looks store-bought, which is not my motivation, but I like the fact that it does. But yeah, not much to say about this one. It's so fresh off the needles, but good vibes, very relaxed, very happy. But yeah, all right. My next one is probably my most spectacular, and that is this one. This is it's called, I think she ended up calling it the Playful Palette Pullover. This was a test knit that I did for Kutavakika, for her, or Veronica Lindberg is her name, for a book that she has recently come out from Liner Publishing called Knits to Wear. The premise being that all of the patterns in that book are for garments which are really easy to throw on and effortless and not too fussy. And I mean, I think, you know, this, you could argue this is perhaps a bit fussy in the making of this garment, but I think this is, for looking through the book, I think this is the most involved pattern. But this was a test knit that it was a secret test knit because it was for the book, so I couldn't really talk about it for a long time, but I've enjoyed wearing it a bit this winter. The pattern is obviously, it's top down colourwork yoke. It's a very simple pattern. I spoke about this recently, but there's not a lot of finer points to make the fit nice, so you probably want to do that yourself. Like, there's no short rows So it's sort of, and it just relies on it being an oversized garment to kind of not fit awkwardly because it just fits big. But the pattern and the pattern called for a strand of DK and a strand of mohair to get a worsted gauge. But I kind of decided that I would rather do a strand of fingering and 2 strands of mohair, which has given the loftiest, lightest, fluffiest garment, and I think makes, if I'm going to do something DK weight, if I'm going to do something Aran worsted weight for where I live, this is probably the best way to achieve that without it being essentially an unwearable garment, because it's not too woolly. Because I think probably even this has limited utility in Melbourne. I work indoors, so the opportunities to wear this are sort of few and far between, but it's just so spectacular. So I think having done this with more mohair and less wool has resulted in a garment which is a bit more wearable for me, and I'm really happy with it. I'm really proud with my colour selection. I think that the stars aligned, and this is using Sanaskan Sunday and Sanaskan their merino, their silk mohair. But I think their colour selection really helped me choose it, so I can't claim, complete credit that they've got a really great palette to draw from. But I really love the kind of, it feels a bit retro, and the pattern is a bit retro, and I really, again, love it. It's probably maybe not, it's maybe a little bit close to my skin tone, perhaps doesn't suit me the best, but I think that's what the 70s were for, was like palettes that maybe didn't quite work out. But this is, I think, the most spectacular thing. I really love it. It was a lot of work in a short space of time to get, I tried to get the yoke done really kind of in one sort of short space, mainly because of the time crunch with the short test window, but also having lots of balls and dealing with lots of colours just meant it was a better thing to just like sit and smash out. So yeah, this one's just a really fun one, and I feel really fun when I wear it. Like, it's just cheers me up. So yeah, I'm really wrapped, and this is making me want a lot more colour work in 2025, and thinking about what I want next year. I want more of this. Like, I want this, Again, I'm just impressed with myself. Sorry. But yeah, the book is available now. I think that everyone needs more colourwork yokes in their life, and I think this one, with its bigger design rather than the smaller, finer ones, like I've been eyeing off the Celeste by Petite Knit and the Kintra by Crayabea, but I think a big graphic one is also really fun. Yeah, this one, like all good garments, I have cropped, and it just sits in my jeans, and I love it. All right, things are getting disorganized, but that's okay. Let's do it. Next up is, again, like a late entrant into excellent timeless knits from this year. And that is this one, which is my Stick Season, which is a pattern by Crayabea. This one has cult status, and now I know why. It's amazing. It's perfect. It's like the Goldilocks zone of drop shoulder, just the right amount of fitted, just the right amount of wearable, and not too oversized, not too fitted. It's the Goldilocks zone, I also think I struck gold with the pattern yarn combination that I did for this as well, because for this I used Peer Gynt. So for the two people who haven't heard of this, this is a DK weight kind of drop shoulder garment with a really lovely shoulder detail, and then a textured yoke that sort of stops just kind of under the bust or at the bust. and it's fantastic. The combination of a hardy yarn like Peer Gynt, which this is, with a garment that is kind of designed to be and is drawn from like utility wear from traditional sailors' gansies, has just made for a really practical, hardy, easy to wear garment. I think I really love this color. It's called marine blue, dark blue or something, but very, very dark blue. A friend of mine and I are calling it Copenhagen Blue because it feels cool, like trendy people in Copenhagen might wear. But I really it was such a pleasure to work with the Peer Gynt, and I think it's a popular yarn for a reason. It knits up so beautifully and evenly. It has so many great colours. I would definitely love to do a colour work garment with Peer Gynt one day. It's certainly a little scratchy, but I am sort of sitting here comfortably now, and I think if I was to wear this in winter with a long sleeve underneath, it'd be great. I think that it has a lot of utility in a lot of different circumstances, and it's just a great garment. I've probably worn it like two, three times max since I finished it, just because, again, I finished it too late. That is also the theme of the year, was that everything was about 4 weeks behind where I wanted it to be. But I'm really happy with this one, and I think, again, this is going to be a stayer for the long run. It's just so easy, and I think, yeah, it's so easy to throw on. It's so easy to just wear. I don't know, that seems silly. It's just a great jumper. And my jacaranda tree is still being the beautiful mess that it is. But anyway, how are we going? Let's continue. Okay, home stretch. The next garment I'm going to talk about is this guy. This is the clay sweater by Azetta. This is a top-down drop shoulder jumper with a kind of like rows of knit and purl texture to create these sort of like ridges. I used a strand of DK weight yarn called from Bendigo Woolen Mills, which is just the kind of hidden gem of Australian yarn. Well, it's not hidden, but like I think maybe a lot of people don't know about it overseas, but great value, great yarn, and they always do some sort of great tweedy colour or like a tweedy line. So this was their like Woodlands Marino, which has some excellent like flecks of colour in it. And I held it with a strand of like a lace weight alpaca, just I think to try and give it a little bit of fuzz and pull the colour a little bit darker, because the base yarn was a little bit more like ginger cap, and I just wanted to sort of pull it a little bit browner, a little bit more orange, which I'm really happy with how the two colours look together. So yeah, I really like the yarn, I really like the pattern. The issues that I had initially was that this is a big heavy garment, and this is definitely like there's a lot of weight in this, and as a result it meant that the neck was being pulled out as like the weight of the jumper from the shoulders pulled the neckline out. And so the classy thing about the photo is she's kind of like standing side on, and she's got this like beautiful like funnel neck thing, and she just looks really cool. And that was, I think, such a draw card, is this like sort of funnel neck that sits up and sort of sits in this way that classy people somehow pull off. And I was losing that. So what I ended up doing was, there is a lot of elastic like holding this thing up. So there's a line of elastic here, there's a line of elastic at the top, and then I also actually put a thicker piece of elastic from one shoulder to the other, just to kind of pull the whole thing in, and maybe I'll show you afterwards. It looks a bit of a mess inside, and it's kind of ridiculous that it needs so much like elastic reinforcement to stop this thing slouching. And look, part of that is probably my tension is like loose, and so if it doesn't have that tension to hold the garment up, then that's on me. But on the whole, it didn't look how I kind of thought it would look, and yeah, that's a bit yarn, that's a bit the yarn choice that I made, my personal tension. But also I think it's something to be mindful of if you are looking for that look that how you can kind of achieve that. The other thing with this is the pattern is for a very like long oversized garment, and I went long, so I'll try and stand up, but like it's sort of, it's long. It looks maybe kind of cooler with shorts, but with trousers it looks a bit weird. Like it's just this awkward length, and given I'm always someone who's like tucking it into my high-waisted trousers, there's like so much material to tuck and it looks weird. And so I don't really, looks kind of cute with leggings, but again, I'm like, I don't want this to just be like an exclusively one I wear around the house. Like I want to wear it out because I like the colour, I like the style, but it's certainly one that didn't get a lot of love this year. Like if my house was burning down and I had to grab things to save, this would not be my priority. That sounds really bad. It's just like, I guess they can't all be winners. Like they can't all be like Book Club Cardigan level amazing. This one is like one that has left me a little underwhelmed for a number of reasons. And I'm not sure if I should try and shorten it to see if I like, take, a massive chunk out of it and make it cropped like other things that I wear I'd probably wear it more then. But maybe someone else would just enjoy it as is, and I should just let this one go. That's a problem for after the summer. But yeah, it's probably also like it's the most orange, and I do like browns, but this is tending quite orange, and I'm not sure if I'm like, yeah, it's as orange as I would ever dare. All right, 2 to go. 2 to go, I think. Good. Oh, I'll show you. So this is the situation in the back, and I was really worried. I didn't want this elastic to be too long or too short, because I didn't want it like scrunching up the shoulders, but I wanted it to do something and hold some structure for the garment itself. It worked. Like it's doing what it needs to do, but this is what I needed to do to make this garment work. Okay, my last garment for the year is one that I haven't actually talked about because this is the hottest off the press. And so I sort of haven't really spoken much about it. Other than me talking about some of the things that went into making it. But this is my most recent finished object. This is my Eva cardigan by Petite Knit. This is using a yarn called Avelli, which is a hand-dyed local Finn sheep that is grown in Victoria, or that is farmed in Victoria, really close to kind of where I live, and it's really nice to support some sort of local mills and some local farms. It was made, and then the other great thing about it is that this yarn is naturally dyed. So I think this one is using weld and indigo to create this very slight variegation, which is not really it's hard to capture. But it's just the most beautiful like pea green yarn. It's just beautiful. So this is a cardigan that I had been dreaming about for a long time. I had this yarn that I was just really obsessed with. It's but I can't make any assessment on it because I can't wait. Like I haven't worn it because it's brand new, but also I probably won't have much cause to wear it for another few months. It's not perfect, and there's some things that I'm still not sure about. Like I forgot to add buttonholes, and not that I'd ever do up the buttons, but it seems like an oversight to not even have buttons on, or I could put buttons on but then there wouldn't be buttonholes to go with them, so I'm kind of not really sure what the point is. But the one main hesitation I have with this, as with the clay sweater, is the length. And I made this long line, and that was because this is a cardigan that I steeked. So I knit it flat up until I finished the neckline shaping, and then I cast on a bridge of stitches, and then I knit stockinette in the round so that I wouldn't have to do the backwards and forwards. It was such a pleasure to knit that I got carried away and probably went further than the pattern indicated, or further than I would normally. And so I think once I missed the boat and I'd overshot for a standard length crop cardigan for me, I was just like, right, all in, and I went long. And I don't really have any longer cardigans, and I'm really kind of enjoying the oversizedness of this one. And again, you know, that's the end of my shorts, and that's my hip bone. So it is longer, and I think I'm just not used to wearing things that are not cropped. So I'm not really sure about what I should do with this. I feel like I get really slouchy when I wear a slouchy cardigan. Like I feel like a long line cardigan, it's just asking to be like, I don't know, I feel like an angsty teen again or something. But the thing that I can't do with this, as I could with like the clay sweater, is shortening. This is essentially, I don't think, an option, because, well, one is I made this enormous button band, which I wouldn't mind ripping out, but it would be a lot of, like, it's a long cardigan, it's a lot of ribbing. But because it's steeked, which I still haven't dealt with the insides, because it's steeked, I don't think, like, I can't rip it back. Like, I can't make it shorter because all of those stitches at the ends of the rows are locked in, and I can't do it. So I think altering this would actually be quite a lot of work. And that shouldn't mean that I don't do it, but I think it would be a significant challenge beyond just ripping it back. And I think it would involve a lot of cutting and a lot of faith, which I'm not in a position to do now. Maybe down the track I'll reassess, but for now it's as is, and it'll go away for a while. Again, I have finished this 4 weeks too late, but that's one of my lessons of 2024 for sure. So yeah, I have one other thing that is an accessory, but I didn't count it in my small accessories because it is a monstrous accessory. And this is my Baka scarf/shawl by Fibre Tales. This is one that I sort of, as spring was coming closer, I decided I was going to stop working on this because it didn't make sense to work on a big lofty woolly shawl scarf thing. But then I just got super into it and just finished it anyway, which was probably at the expense of, you know, making things that I could have made earlier, like my Eva cardigan or my zipper sweater. But we live and learn. It's fine. What I have then instead is this like incredible squishy garter, sort of blanket. Oh my god, it's just so nice. This is a pattern that Fibre Tales released, I think, earlier this year, but it has you do one, you know, big garter scarf, and then what you do is you create these braids that you sort of braid in at the end, and they just run the length of the garment, and they sort of undulate and weave in and out in this really organic way that is meant to emulate the hills around where she lives, because I think Baka means like hills in Danish. So it means that the pattern is kind of overwhelming because every row is charted because it is this organic shape, but it means that it's also quite flexible in terms of making some mistakes and keeping track of things. This was really fun. I've used a strand of Plotalopi with a strand of mohair, and it's just the perfect colour. I'm just so obsessed with this. I can't wait for this to be like a big, like, woolly, squishy scarf for next winter. But this one, yeah, probably is it's super squished at the moment because I put most of my like big thick woolies away for the winter until next year. But I'm still really happy with this, and I'm glad that it's like, it was taking up a lot of space as a project, as a whip. So probably part of my incentive to finish it was getting it out of the way because it was very bulky. But that's it. They are all the things I made this year. And looking at them all, that's kind of crazy, and that's a lot. And I'm really wrapped with everything. I think I've had some really big successes this year, a lot more successes than flops. And I think this is me really recognizing, like making really good choices and being really considered with the projects that I make. And I think I've learned a lot about what I like to wear and what suits me. And it's got me definitely thinking about 2025 and knits for the future, and I think also buying yarn. Like, I think the things that I'm less happy with are things where I kind of shoehorned a project to fit some yarn that I had bought previously without an intended project in mind. And that is, so as a result, I think I'm definitely much more inclined now to buy yarn when I know what I want to make with it and kind of wear the cost, because yeah, maybe it's on special, but you know, I'd rather pay an extra $20 or something cumulatively and get something at the right time when it's the right yarn for the right project, because when they align, when the pattern and the yarn are perfect for each other, it makes a really perfect garment. And I think you kind of trying to fudge or shoehorn something different maybe doesn't pay off in the same way that it does when things are perfect. So yeah, I think overall I'm going to count 2024 a huge success. I'm really happy with the things I've made, but there was a lot of them. And one of the things I'm going to take forward into next year is focusing on fewer, nicer things. And that probably in reality means making finer things, making more detailed things, making colour work and more fingering weight things, which I'm going to get more wear out of, and they take twice as long, but I could do with halving the amount of stuff I make each year, if that makes sense. So whilst it means that, you know, I'm probably going to, the net output is going to, the volume is going to be less, I think I'm excited to get some more fine pieces and some more, some nicer, not these aren't nice, but like, when I think about the things, my favourite projects from this year are the things that were more involved, the things that took longer, the things that took more effort, and as a result, I think look more spectacular. So yeah, things to think about, I think, and I'm looking forward to 2025, and I'm looking forward to having Paige back. But yeah, I really wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone so much who has watched this channel this year, who has supported myself and Paige, who has left comments and sent us emails, and you know, everything has been such a pleasure. And you know, like I said earlier, the best thing about this kind of world is the best thing about this community is the community itself, and it's such a pleasure to be a part of and to share and to meet people and to message people, and I'm really, really grateful, and it's been a really fun year. So thank you, all of you. Thanks so much. Really, really grateful. I hope that you all have a sort of, if this is a time of celebration for you, I hope that you can celebrate. If this is a time, if this is the end of year for you, if this is your new year, I hope that the new year brings kind of good things for you. And I am looking forward to a really, like, an exciting 2025. It feels good. So on that note, I will sign off, and I'll see you soon. Bye.